Alright guys, so in this video we're going to be taking a look at one of the more underrated rooms on the Titanic, the Veranda Cafe and the Palm Court, which was located towards the stern of A deck. The room was divided into two separate rooms on A deck, located on both sides of the second class staircase and directly aft of the first class smoking room. And you can get a good visual on how you would enter it from the first class smoking room. Very interesting door there, a little swivel entering the Palm Court area. Its rooms were brightly lit by large windows and double sliding doors that opened onto the aft end of the first class Promenade deck. And yes, there is a scene from Titanic that does showcase these doors, the sliding doors opening and closing. And it is such a peaceful area of the ship. The cafe was elegantly furnished with wicker tables and chairs spread out across a checkerboard tiled floor in a black and beige. Various outdoor plants filled the rooms. These rooms specifically were known for their ivy on the walls. Just a great aroma. It's just classic Titanic feel. Very underrated area of the ship. The rooms were light and airy with beautiful decor, and due to their location towards the stern of the ship, you can kind of get some big windows and good views towards the back end of the ship. Really big windows here just based off of its location. The Veranda Cafe had both smoking and non-smoking sections. The smoking section, located on the port side, was accessible from the first-class smoking room. The non-smoking section, located on the starboard side, was closed to traffic from the smoking room and on occasion used as a play area by mothers and children. The Veranda Cafe was similar in style on both the Olympic and the Titanic. While there are many photos of the Olympic's cafe, only one photo of Titanic's remains today. And just from my airtight, absolutely extensive research, I believe this is the one photo that was taken. You can see, if you look really closely at where the first class smoking room would be through those doors that are wide open, and you can kind of just get to take a look at the overall area of it there. The big windows and the ivy on the walls really strike me. The room located in the stern was torn apart by the severe implosions which occurred on the descent to the ocean floor. On the wreck, the remnants of A deck have collapsed. A fragment of the decorative bronze grille from the upper part of one of the Veranda and Palm Court windows was recovered in 1994. On the Titanic, both of these rooms were connected to the smoke room and were pushed aft until they connected to the fan room. So that is the story of the Palm Court. Very, very peaceful area. And my understanding, when the stern went down, there actually is some debate that I've seen. Did the stern actually implode? I believe that it did, just based off of the way it looks on the ocean floor. You could also argue that it was traveling at a ridiculous speed. If it didn't implode, it would hit the ocean floor and probably immediately collapse on itself and pancake it. But in my opinion, just where would the air go? Like, the air would get trapped in that third class area right at the stern of it. I feel like there's nowhere for that to go, and only an implosion can happen unless somehow the portholes got blown wide open. So when it comes to the Palm Court and what happened to it, I'm guessing it just, when it imploded, the top deck, the boat deck, collapsed on the bottom decks, because all the bottom decks on implosion were completely destroyed. And that's why the stern is, you can't explore it. None of the rooms, they're all destroyed. So I'm guessing the Palm Court and the cafe collapsed on top of the other decks, and that caused severe damage, which makes it completely unrecognizable. I would imagine just days after the wreck, you could probably still see some of it collapsed on top of the decks that would be pancaked. But at this point, at least when we discovered it in 1985, it was unrecognizable by then. Both the Palm Court and the cafe currently is smashed to a point where it's almost flat. The portside cafe remains, but the roof is slightly twisted and sagging aft. The starboard calf is smashed at the floor and jammed together with the ceiling jerked back and the walls crushed on top of each other. Much of the starboard A deck has been ripped off. The room was featured in the 1997 film and was shown very accurately. The one issue that I had heard, people were saying that they did not serve full course meals, you know, when they were all sitting together, and I think Cal ordered Rose's course. They don't really serve that. It's more just refreshments. You know, I would love to see we bring something like that back nowadays, where you just, you know, they only serve you drinks. What, you know, but nowadays it's like everyone needs 50 different food options. You're not going to have that. But it was just such a nice, modest time. You only get refreshments. It's a nice area. There's some natural plants. There's some ivy. It's located towards the back of the ship. You've got the windows. It's a bright place. Yes. And they were big on bringing in the plants as well. You can see all the different decor. Reminds me of the private promenade deck with all the different plants there. All of these plants, at least that I know, were real. Actually, I don't know. Some of those do look a bit ridiculous, but the ivy was certainly real because it was growing as the Titanic left. And there is the famous door. So you walk out that way and you get a nice view of the stern of the Titanic, of the back of the ship. And when the ship broke into two, these two rooms were perfectly fine. They were not impacted by the, well, I mean, maybe there was some debris thrown around, but in general, it's not like the ship split in this area. So theoretically, before the implosion, this room going down to the ocean floor was in tip-top condition. It was in fine condition. Unfortunately, the implosion happens. All of the decks get ripped out and it collapses, especially when it hits the ocean floor. It just collapses on top of all of these other decks because they're all hollowed out at that point from the heavy implosion. When it comes to a typical experience in the Palm Court, there's been no recorded menus that survived from the Titanic wreck, as only light refreshments were available in these locations. There was probably no need for a menu. It's imagined that if you entered and sat down, a steward would approach and ask if you wanted tea or coffee. Then perhaps a trolley would be wheeled to your table with a variety of cakes, pastries, and other temptations available for selection. So guys, that is the story of the Veranda Cafe and the Palm Court, located towards the stern of the ship just beyond the first class smoking room. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.